Hey everybody, thanks for joining. Today I'm going to be making a video about boiling crawfish, and this video is going to be designed for the person who's never boiled a crawfish before. I'm going to start with the equipment you're going to need to boil crawfish, down to the part numbers, where I got them, everything that I use I'm going to put in this video. If you choose to use it, it'll be there for you. I'm going to cover where getting the crawfish, cleaning the crawfish, purging the crawfish. I'm even going to dispel a lot of myths out there about using salt to purge the crawfish. There's a lot of misconceptions on salt. Salt actually kills the crawfish. It's not the way you want to purge your crawfish. We're probably going to aggravate a lot of people who grew up putting salt on their crawfish to purge them, but I'm going to give you the places to go to get the information on where I did my research, and you can look for yourself if you want to go beyond on purging. I'm going to cover the recipes. Tomorrow I'm actually having a crawfish boil where we're going to be comparing. I'm going to do 3 separate pots. One with Zatarain's Pro Boil, one with Louisiana Fish Fry Company's season mix, and one with Slap Ya Mama. And my guests are actually going to get to try the 3 in separate bins and just see how they taste side by side comparison. If time allows, I'll throw a couple clips from that in here and let you know kind of what the consensus was on the different seasonings. But I'm born and raised in New Orleans. My family used to buy our crawfish at Ferrera's grocery store at Robert Elite and Elysian Fields. If any of you remember that, long gone, but it was a family-owned grocery store in our neighborhood. I moved to Texas, and Texans have crawfish pretty much anytime you can get them in New Orleans. You can get them in Texas and Houston. The difference in Texas is the seasoning in many places that you go to. A lot of the seasoning is on the outside of the crawfish. It's just powder they sprinkle on after they cook them. And I guess if you don't like your crawfish spicy, I guess that may be the logic behind it. It's not the way I grew up eating crawfish, and it's not the way the recipes in this book or in this video are going to go. I'm going to give you the recipe for how we cooked crawfish in New Orleans. The seasoning is in the water, and when you break a crawfish open, the juices that you taste are the season, not this stale water flavor. We're going to do a couple variations on some of the cooking techniques, and I'll cover those for you. The video might be a little long-winded for those of you who watch it, decide this is something you want to do, and then come cooking day, you don't want to sift through 10 minutes of video about equipment and part numbers and where I got my stuff. To make it easy for you, what I'm going to do is at the end of this introduction, there's going to be a screenshot that's going to come up, and it's going to have the sections, each section and where it starts, whether it's equipment, purging the crawfish, cleaning the crawfish, recipe. You're going to be able to see exactly how many minutes into this video each section starts. And so come cook day, you want to pull this video back up and you just want to go straight to the section on recipe, then you'll be able to see exactly how many minutes into it is. So after this introduction, when the page pops up, just hit pause and write down whatever time it is in the section you want to go to, and it should speed it up for you a little bit. So I hope you enjoy the video, and please like it and post any comments below. Love to hear from you. So this is a Cajun Rocket Pots is the brand name. This is an 80-quart pot, and it comes with the straining basket. You can actually get it with or without this drain valve. I added these brass fittings to hook my hose up to it. It'll come with just the welded on piece here. It's welded on. It seems pretty well made. It's definitely better made than the ones you're going to see at Academy or Walmart. What I like about it, the lid fits perfect. It actually slips in place and seals. The unique thing about the Cajun rocket pot is the bottom of the pot, the way it's made. If you can see on the video, and I'll show you a photo later on, they've welded all of these little metal beads on the bottom, or rods, and when the flame comes up and hits the bottom of the pot, the flames disperse, and instead of just going around the side of the pot and up, they actually hit each metal post, and they get these posts real hot, and you don't lose the heat. So the Cajun rocket pots claims that you will get the water twice as fast with their pot. I haven't actually timed how long it takes the water to boil. I decided to go with it because when I called the company, the owner of the company actually got on the phone with me and explained the whole concept behind his pots, talked to me about recipes, probably spent 30 minutes of his life talking to me about things even well beyond his crawfish pot. And you just don't see that kind of service anymore. I believe they're in Covington, Louisiana, and you can order their stuff online. They have distributors throughout the state. I just ordered straight from them. They make this one with and without the lever or the drain valve. And just to show you the difference, I bought this at Home Depot, and I believe this is a Bayou Classic, just a regular, this is an 80 quart also. This came out of the box. The box was in perfect condition, and this is what I got, all dented up. And I saw that when I opened the box, and I wasn't going to go through all the trouble of going back to Home Depot. I'm only using this one to steam, so I really don't, I'm not that worried about it. But you could just tell by looking at it, even the metal parts, they just look casts made, or they just don't look as well made as the Cajun rocket pot. Obviously they don't have the same bottom as the Cajun rocket pot. It did appear to cook a little slower than the rocket pot, but I just don't like the fact that the quality assurance controls, you're going to ship things out and it's going to be this way. When you buy your pots, I got 80 quart pots. If you get a 100 quart pot, you can put a whole bag of crawfish in the pot. If you're just looking to get a sack, 35 pounds is typically what a sack comes in. You can put the sack and your potatoes and everything in the same pot and do it all at one time. I don't mind splitting my boils up. I actually prefer it and get a little bit of the adjustment in the season, and if you try the first one and want to add a little bit. But 80 quart works for me. If you're looking to do one sack at a time, you want to do one boil and be done with it, go ahead and spend $20 more and get the 100 quart pot. This is the burner I chose. This is the Bayou Classic. It actually has two jets, two separate jet burners, and I'm telling you, it heats up quick. It's got a 35 psi regulator that comes on it. If on this particular model number, if you do your research on Amazon and start looking around, I believe the older version of this same burner had some problems with the regulator. People were complaining about the regulators not working, that you could turn the knob freely, it wouldn't stop at full open or full close, so you never quite knew where you were at. I tested this one and it doesn't have that problem, so I'm guessing that that was a problem that Bayou Classic caught and fixed. You do want to make sure that the 35 psi regulator is what you get instead of the 10. You can tell the difference when you look at it. It's red here. This is how it looked when I got it, and it is 35 psi. You're going to burn the paint off of it because when it takes off, it's like a rocket. That's just going to happen. The beams on this are solid. Some of the other ones are actually hollow, and this is super duper heavy duty. When I get done with this video, I'm going to show you some pictures of the two jet burners and a little bit close up to the regulator for those of you that want to, when you're buying your stuff, you want to make sure you're getting the right one. You'll see different burners. Some of them have what's called a banjo burner, and what it looks like the shape of a banjo. It's just round. It's about that round, and it's actually got a bunch of little burner holes on it where the flames all come up. It's going to take a lot longer to heat those with those than with the jet burner, But if you're going to be cooking jambalaya and you're going to be cooking different things where you want a low heat and a high heat, you may choose to go with that, but a jet burner is the way to go. If you're boiling crawfish and you're trying to get the water hot fast, you want that jet engine. The reason it got that name is it's like a jet engine. You'll hear it. It even makes a lot of noise when we crank it up tomorrow. Blasting right off the top. But this thing eats propane. I've got 3 propane tanks, and it does not take long for this thing to suck up a propane tank. But it does heat the water up pretty fast. And you're obviously going to need a propane tank. You'll see pretty much most of your grocery stores, Home Depots, Lowe's. You can go in and do an exchange where you just pay $49 for the first one, and then I think it's $19 each time after. I bought my own tanks. You can get them at Home Depot empty. Any Ace Hardware that I've seen fills them up for you. It's actually cheaper to bring them to Ace Hardware and only pay for the fuel that they put in. It's a 20-pound tank, but they're not gonna put 20 pounds in it. They have to leave about a quarter of the tank empty. And so I just go to Ace Hardware and have mine filled. That way I know after every crawfish boil or every time I use this thing, I bring it in and I have them filled right back up to the top. When you buy these propane tanks, one thing you want to look for is they actually have a date when it was manufactured. This one is January of 2014. These things are only good for 10 years. And after 10 years, the propane places won't fill them up for you. They'll tell you they have to be recertified or whatever, where it's going to hold the pressure. They're going to test the pressure in it. Some of the ones I saw at Home Depot were like 2 and 3 years old. Well, that's, you're paying 25 to 30% of the lifespan on that thing is already gone. It's sitting on the shelf right next to one that's just a few months old. So if you just look at the engraving, a lot of people don't know that, but if you just look at the engraving, just try to get as new of one as you can get. I mean, you're not going to go to Home Depot and get one made yesterday, but if it's within a year, I mean, you still got 9 years to go. But I definitely wouldn't buy one 3 or 4 years old. I would just wait. And then I actually got this magnetic cover on Amazon. I forget what they even call it, tank friskers or something like that. And they've got different designs and whatnot. It just makes it look a little better. So we're here in my backyard today, and I'm going to touch base on just some of the things that you'll see when you start looking for ingredients to put in with your crawfish boil. Louisiana fish fry products are pretty much available almost anywhere you can get crawfish. You're going to be able to get Louisiana crawfish boil and Zatarain's brand. This is pretty much what we grew up eating in New Orleans. The 3 different types of seasonings that you're going to see are the powder, and all this is a bag of powder in here. It's like almost like flour, cayenne texture. See if you can see it on here, kind of in there. All of your powders are going to be about the same. They're going to sell them in pretty much the same bags, 1 pound, small bags, 4 pound. I think I see 4.5 pounds sometimes. Yeah, 4.5 pounds on the Louisiana fish fry. And then you're going to see these little seasoning boxes. And what these are is this is a different flavor in my opinion than what you get here. So I would not substitute the bags for the powder. I use both in mine. And inside these boxes, whether you get Fish Fry brand or Zatarain's brand, they're all pretty much the same. You're going to see little peppercorns, and if you can take a look at that, you're going to see pretty much just a lot of different seasons. It'll tell you on the box what a lot of them are. but it gives it this is a strong flavor. I'll put one of these in with my boil when I do my boil, and then you'll see the concentrated liquid. This is super concentrated. You want to follow the instructions on this just like it says on the box, or in the bag, can, bottle, whatever the hell, or you'll really have your stuff will be way too spicy. So in my mix, I use powder. I put one of these bags in, and I put the liquid boil according to what the recipe says. I do garlic. I threw some of this elephant ear garlic in. Obviously onions and these new potatoes are a must-have. When you look at the powders, you're going to see Zatarain's Pro Boil. It comes in a container. It almost looks like it's some kind of liquid or something. It's actually powder, no different than any of the other powders. I actually like the fact that it comes in a container like this. I can actually use this at home when I'm doing small boils or shrimp and stuff, and I can put it back in the cabinet and I don't have to deal with, once I open the bag, resealing the bag. So I actually save the container, and even if I decide I'm going to use fish fry, that's what I want to use, I'll just use the Zatarain's container when I'm done. Another thing I do, save these little bags like this when you buy your stuff at the grocery store, like lemons are a must-have in a crawfish boil. And these are for the new potatoes, because you actually can boil your items in the bag, and when you boil your item in the bag, it's easier when you pull it out. You don't have to sift through, you get all the potatoes in one pack. I actually use the lemon bag. I actually take these garlic, I actually peel each one, and I'll put them in here, and it'll be filled with probably 60 or 70 of these toes out of the garlic. And when I boil it, when I pour it, I just pour it in a container and put it on the table, and a lot of people like that spicy garlic. It flavors the water just the same as it would if it was loose, but it's easier to separate when you go to serve it. Okay, so we just came back from Kroger's, and this is how the crawfish came. I ordered 2 sacks and just brought them home. Basically, Kroger's received them today. It's still early in the crawfish season. The price of crawfish for this sack is $87.15 for about 35 pounds. And this is how they come. There's your sack, and they're in somewhat of a hibernation mode. Kroger's keeps them in the refrigerator so they'll live longer. And when you first take them out of the refrigerated state, a lot of them are going to appear like they're dead. They're not going to be dead. They're just in this hibernation state. When I start rinsing them off, they're going to warm up a little bit. I'm going to hose them off first in the bag, and I'm going to put them inside of a laundry basket with holes in it and dunk them in water. I'm going to let them soak inside this plastic tub that I've got the box in right now for about 10 minutes. I'm going to let them soak, and then I'm going to take them out, clean their gills out a little bit, and then when I'm done, I'm going to put them in the ice chest with just a towel on top of them and just a handful of ice, or a couple cupfuls of ice, not enough to melt and go to the bottom and drown them, but enough to keep it, you want to keep it below 50 degrees. I'm going to let them sit in my garage for 24 hours to purge, and tomorrow we'll pull them out, go through them again, and they'll be ready to eat. So the first thing we do is we hose the crawfish down still in the bag. Get as much junk out of the bag, dirt, mud, as you can while it's still in the bag, hosing them down. After they came out of the refrigerator at Kroger's is also going to get them to come back to somewhat out of their hibernated state from the cold. And out of a 35-pound sack, each one of those 35-pound sacks is probably going to wind up with 4 or 5 pounds of dead crawfish, and that's just the price you pay for having them brought here from Louisiana probably, and buying them at the local grocery store. That's about the ratio you're going to lose no matter where you buy them from. We're going to hose them down. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, the crawfish actually do not survive underwater if you put them. So what we're doing, I've got one bag I'm going to let soak in this plastic container with water. No more than 10 or 15 minutes with that many crawfish. They'll eat up the oxygen in the water pretty quick. The other bag I'm going to put in this laundry basket that you see, and I'm going to do a more thorough cleaning of them. Basically what we're looking for, and we're getting close to being done, is when we put them in this plastic bin full of water, this water should be clear. The first few times we do this, the water's going to be murky. You're going to be able to tell that there was mud in the water. Bring it over here so you can see. So we're filling this one up, and as you can tell, that water's pretty murky looking. So even with almost a full container of water, you can see it's still pretty muddy. And we're going to do this a couple of times till that water's a little clearer. Then we're going to put them in the laundry basket. Was muddy water. So this is what lunch looks like before we start cooking. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking a damp towel. The crawfish, 1 sack of crawfish are in this ice chest. I've got a damp towel. I've got some ice packs that will not leak. You don't want the water to accumulate at the bottom of the ice chest because it'll drown whatever crawfish are at the bottom. And I'm actually just going to take some ice, put it in a container that I know won't leak. What I don't want is for this water to melt overnight. I'll fill this all the way up. But what I don't want is just throw the ice cubes on the top and then have them leak and drown the crawfish at the bottom. So I'll close that and I'll actually open the plug on the back, it's already open, of the ice chest just in case something does leak or go down to the bottom. And I'll let this sit overnight. I'll pull them out again, I'll clean them, and then I'll pull the dead ones out, and then they will be purged from sitting overnight in the, basically just, obviously they're not eating anything for 24 hours, and that's how you're purging the intestinal tract of the crawfish. Okay, so we did our crawfish and it was a success. The crawfish came out good. I do want to recap a couple of issues, just to touch base on a few things that we kind of went over pretty quick in the video. Probably the biggest thing is the purging of the crawfish. If you just pour your crawfish in, if you fill them up in a tank with water or a sink with water and you just pour salt on them, you're not purging the crawfish. You're killing the crawfish. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree because generations of us in New Orleans grew up believing we were purging crawfish. If you go on the Louisiana State University's agriculture webpage, they've got dozens and dozens of research projects they've done on crawfish, and there's good documentation there to show the only way you really purge a crawfish is to just let it sit 24 to 48 hours in its natural state without feeding it, and whatever's in its intestines and whatnot are obviously going to pass, no different than anything else. So that's how you purge them. They also cannot be underwater. People think you put the crawfish in water and just leave them overnight. The oxygen in the water is going to go pretty quick, you know, with 35 pounds of crawfish in there. So when you watch my video on purging them, I put my box of ice, my container of ice. It's a plastic container that's not going to leak into the ice chest, and it keeps them around 50 degrees or a little below 50 degrees, but it doesn't let the water go in there. The other thing is, a lot of people chop the onions up and they just cut a garlic head in half and they throw that in the water, and that's actually how I grew up eating crawfish, and they're going to taste just fine that way. I actually saw somewhere where they actually cut them up, put them in a blender with the bottled water, and they almost made like a puree with it, and that's how I do mine. It mixes fantastic with the water and it cooks. In my opinion, if you puree your celery and your onions with water and almost make like a slushy mix and pour it in the water, I just can't see it not adding the flavor of the onions and the celery better to the mix than just cutting an onion in half and letting it float in the tank. But that's a preference thing, whatever works for you. I will say that in my crawfish boil, just to appease those that aren't happy if they don't see a couple onions floating around, I did the puree the way I normally do it, and then I cut a couple onions up just for special effects and threw them in there just for those people who aren't happy unless they see it floating around. Cooling the water off when you're done cooking, you basically you put the corn in at the end. The frozen corn cobs will cool it down a little bit, and then you put bagged ice or just put ice in the water. You want to get the temperature below 150 degrees so the crawfish don't continue cooking. There's a fine line on balancing that. If you just pour buckets and buckets of ice in that water and now you're letting the crawfish soak in that water, you've just diluted all of the seasonings and everything that you put in that water by however much you add to the pot. I actually have another way that I do it where I actually just take the crawfish out in a basket. That's a whole nother video we'll do somewhere else, but just this video is just basic, how to boil crawfish. So I would just caution you on putting too much ice in there. Get a turkey thermometer or one of those ones they sell at Academy with the long probe, and just put the ice in the water and just stir it with a paddle until you get it right at 150 degrees, and then leave it alone. Don't add any more ice or water than you have to cool your water off, because you're diluting the effect of your seasonings. And the other thing is, on the two types of burners, you'll see some pictures of the banjo burner. It's the one with the big round ring with a bunch of little burner holes. And then you'll also see the jet burners, which is what you want if you're going to do crawfish boils. It's going to make that high power, heat that water up fast. The banjo burner is going to heat the water up slower. The upside is you can use the banjo burner for things like jambalaya or things that you need to cook with a lower heat. I'm not sitting there all day waiting for it to heat up, as cheap as they are. I paid $78 for my double jet burner. I bought it on Amazon.com. I didn't even shop. I just had it delivered to the house, Prime membership for free. And I think it was $78 with free shipping. So at that price, if I decide one day I'm going to cook jambalaya in the backyard and that becomes my craving, then I'll go get another burner and I'll get the banjo style burner. So I hope you enjoyed the video. The Zatarain's Pro Boil and the Louisiana Fish Fry are the two seasonings that we actually wound up using. We never got to make the third pot. And the Louisiana Fish Fry was the one that was unanimously the favorite. The Pro Boil, people said it just was too hot, and it was hot without good flavor. And I agree. It was much spicier than the normal Zatarain's boil, but almost just too much heat and not enough of the good spices that you need. So that's just the opinion of my guest. Everyone has their own preference, and the longer you let the crawfish sit in the water and the seasoning, the spicier they're going to get. So I start at 15 minutes. I start tasting them, and then typically it's 30 minutes before I'll pull them out and serve them to my guests. So I hope this helps you if you're just starting out boiling crawfish. If you have any thoughts or suggestions or things that work for you too, throw it in the comments section, and we always want to learn about how to make it better.